It was a Tuesday night in late October, and I was driving home from my mother's house with a trunk full of her old quilts and a casserole dish she insisted I take because she'd made too much chicken and dumplings. I remember thinking about nothing in particular. The radio was on low, some country station playing a song I half knew, and I had the heat cranked up because it had dropped into the 40s and my car's heater takes forever to actually do anything. I was on Route 9, about 20 minutes from home, when my phone rang through the Bluetooth. I didn't recognize the number. I almost didn't answer. I get spam calls constantly, we all do, and I was tired and just wanted to get home and put the leftovers in the fridge and take a bath. But something made me tap the green button. I don't know what. I just did. Hello? Silence for a second, then a woman's voice. Low and tight, but she was trying not to be heard. Is this Audrey? My stomach did something strange right then. Not because the voice was threatening, because I recognized it. Barely, but I did. It was my sister-in-law, my husband's younger sister, Deb. Deb and I weren't close, we were polite. Holiday dinners, the occasional birthday text. She lived about 40 minutes north of us, and we saw her maybe 4 times a year. She had her own life, her own friends, her own orbit. She'd always been a little distant with me. Not unkind, just guarded. I hadn't spoken to her in maybe 3 months. Deb? Yeah, it's me. What's going on? Another pause. I could hear her breathing. Are you home right now? No. I'm driving. I was at my mom's. Why? What's wrong? Okay, she exhaled. Okay. Don't go home tonight. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain didn't know what else to do with it. What do you mean, don't go home? Deb, what are you talking about? I can't explain everything right now. I'm not somewhere I can talk freely, but Audrey, please, don't go to your house tonight. Can you go back to your mom's? Or a hotel? Anywhere but home. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. The casserole dish slid a little in the back seat when I took the curve. Deb, you're scaring me. Is someone hurt? Did something happen to my husband? Your husband is why I'm calling, the radio kept playing. Some song I'll never be able to listen to again without feeling cold. I pulled off onto the shoulder of Route 9 and put the car in park. My hazard lights came on automatically. I sat there in the orange flicker of them trying to breathe. What do you mean? I said. What did he do? She didn't answer right away. I could hear muffled sounds on her end, like she'd covered the phone with her hand for a moment. He's been going through your things, she finally said. Your accounts. He knows about the money you've been saving. My mouth went dry. Let me back up. My husband Neil and I had been married for 11 years. We met when I was 30 and he was 34 at a mutual friend's backyard barbecue in Raleigh. He was charming and funny, and he made me feel like I was the most interesting person in any room. We got married 2 years later, bought a house, got a dog, a beagle named Chester, who passed away last year and whose absence I still feel like a missing tooth. Things were fine for a long time, or I thought they were fine. I told myself they were fine because I didn't want to look too closely at the parts that weren't. Neil could be moody. He handled all our finances, which I'd agreed to early on because I was never great with money, and he was, or seemed to be. He had a system, he said. Spreadsheets, automated transfers, everything organized. I trusted him completely. I didn't even have access to our joint savings account because the login was tied to his work email and I'd never thought to ask him to change it. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I know. About 18 months ago, I started noticing things, little things at first, a credit card statement for an account I didn't know we had, a name I didn't recognize showing up twice in his call log when I borrowed his phone to make a call because mine was dead. He explained both away easily, smoothly, without even seeming defensive about it. I wanted to believe him, so I did, but something in me had shifted. Quietly, without me even fully deciding to, I started setting aside small amounts of money. I'd get cash back at the grocery store, $20 here, $40 there. I opened a savings account at a different bank, a small local credit union, in my name only. I didn't take from our joint accounts. I only put in money I earned from the freelance work I did on the side, writing and editing for a few small businesses. Stuff Neil barely knew about because he'd always waved it off as your little side thing. By October, I had just over $9,000 in that account. I told no one, not my mother, not my best friend, not my therapist even, because I was afraid of what naming it out loud would mean. But somehow Deb knew. How does he know about the account? I asked her. He found statements in your email. Audrey, he went through your email. On your laptop. My hands were shaking now. When? Last week. He called me. She stopped. He was not calm. He said some things that scared me. I've been trying to figure out what to do since then. I'm sorry it took me this long to call you. I didn't know how. Outside, a truck barreled past on Route 9, rocking my car slightly in its wake. I watched its taillights disappear around the bend. What kind of things did he say? I asked. He said you were stealing from him. He said he was going to make sure you had nothing. Those were his exact words. Her voice was very careful now, like she was reading from notes she'd prepared. He said he had a lawyer friend who'd already advised him and that he was moving money before the end of the month. And then he said something else. What? He said you wouldn't see it coming. I sat there on the shoulder of Route 9 for a long time after she said that. Long enough that a county sheriff's car slowed down beside me and the officer rolled down his window and asked if I was okay. I told him yes. Just a phone call. I'd be moving in a minute. He nodded and drove on. Deb was still on the line. Where are you right now? I asked her. At a gas station, about a mile from your house, actually. I drove down. I didn't want to do this over the phone, but I was too afraid to go to your door in case he was there. Is he there? At the house? His truck is in the driveway. Yeah. I closed my eyes. Neil worked from home 3 days a week. Tuesday was one of them. Deb, I said, why are you telling me this? He's your brother. She was quiet for a moment. He's my brother, she said. But I've watched him do this to someone before. I didn't ask her what that meant. Not right then. I filed it away somewhere deep and I kept moving because I had to. I called my mother first. I told her I needed to come back, that I'd explain later, that I was sorry. She didn't ask questions. She just said she'd put the porch light on. Then I sat there a little longer and thought through what I actually needed. My laptop was in the house. My passport was in the house. There were some documents, insurance papers, our marriage certificate, a folder of records I'd been keeping, copies of financial statements, locked in the small fireproof box in the bedroom closet. I needed that box. I couldn't go in there blind. I called Deb back. Can you tell me exactly where his truck is? Is he in the front of the house or back? His office is in the back. The light's on back there. Okay, I was already thinking. I need 20 minutes inside that house. I need to get some things. If I go in through the front and stay quiet, I can probably do it without him knowing I'm there. Audrey, I'm not confronting him. I just need documents. I have a right to be in my own house. She was quiet. I'll stay on the line, she finally said. I drove. The 12 minutes back to our street felt like nothing, like the car was driving itself. I parked 2 blocks away on Ellison, in front of the Hendersons' house. I turned off my headlights and sat there a moment. Our house was a tan colonial with black shutters. We'd bought it 8 years ago for $340,000 and had spent 2 years fixing it up room by room. I'd painted the front door myself, brick red. I remember being so proud of that door. I got out of the car. The night was cold and very still. Our street was the kind of street where everyone went inside after dark, where the sidewalks were always empty by 7. No one to see me cut across the Hendersons' side yard, then the Pattersons', then come around to the back corner of our own property from the neighbor's fence line. The back office window was lit up. I could see the blue-white glow of a computer monitor through the half-open blinds. the shadow of Neil sitting at his desk. I came in through the side door, the one that opens into the laundry room. My key still worked. Of course it did. He didn't know I was coming. I eased the door open 1 centimeter at a time. The dryer was running. That helped with the noise. Inside, the house smelled like coffee and something else I couldn't name. Something slightly off, like a window had been left open somewhere and closed again, like the smell of outside had gotten in and hadn't quite left. I moved through the laundry room into the hallway. His office was at the far end of the house, past the kitchen, past the living room. I was going upstairs. The bedroom closet, the stairs were the problem. 3rd stair creaks, has always creaked. We talked about fixing it 100 times and never did. I stepped over it. My heart was so loud I was genuinely surprised he couldn't hear it. Upstairs, down the hall, into our bedroom, the room was dark and very neat, neater than I'd left it last weekend, which meant he'd been in here, going through things, maybe cleaning up evidence of whatever he'd done, maybe just existing in this room that had been ours and thinking his private thoughts. I didn't let myself feel anything about that. The closet. The fireproof box was on the top shelf, behind a stack of sweaters. I reached up for it, pulled it down, held it against my chest. The key was on my keyring, had been for years, and he'd never asked about it. Some things you hide in plain sight. I opened it as quietly as I could, right there in the closet with the door nearly closed, using my phone's flashlight. Marriage certificate. Car titles in both our names. The folder of financial records, my social security card, the password list I'd written by hand 18 months ago when I started getting careful. I transferred everything into the canvas tote bag I'd grabbed from the hook by the laundry room door on my way through. My laptop was on the nightstand. I hadn't expected that. I grabbed it. I was going to make it. I was almost to the top of the stairs when I heard his office door open. I froze. Footsteps in the kitchen. The refrigerator opening. The sound of a bottle being set on the counter. He was getting a drink. I stood at the top of the stairs without moving for what felt like an entire year. The refrigerator closed. The footsteps moved back toward the office. The door clicked shut. I took the stairs one at a time. Stepped over the 3rd one, through the hallway, through the laundry room, out the side door. I eased it closed behind me. Outside, the cold hit my face, and I realized I'd been sweating. I walked back across the Pattersons' yard, across the Hendersons', back to my car on Ellison. My legs felt strange, like they weren't entirely attached to the rest of me. I got in the car. I locked the door. Deb was still on the phone. "I'm out," I said. She let out a breath. Okay, are you hurt?" "No, I have everything I need." "Where are you going?" "My mom's." I started the car. I pulled away from the curb slowly, no headlights until I turned onto the main road. My mother lives 22 minutes away. I drove all 22 of them without crying. I don't know how. Her porch light was on. She was waiting at the door before I even parked, still in her bathrobe, her white hair loose around her shoulders. She looked at my face and she opened her arms without saying a word. I put down everything I was carrying. I let her hold me. I cried for a while. Not prettily, not quietly, the kind of crying that hurts your ribs. She made tea. She didn't push me. We sat at her kitchen table, the one I grew up doing homework at, and I told her some of it. Enough. She listened. She asked very few questions. She said when I finally ran out of words, "You've been scared for a while, haven't you?" It wasn't a question. "Yeah," I said, "I have." "Well," she said, "you're not scared alone anymore." I slept in my old room that night, in the twin bed with the yellow comforter she'd never replaced, and I slept harder than I had in months, maybe years. The next morning I called a lawyer, a family law attorney in Raleigh, a woman who'd been recommended to me by a coworker the year before. I'd written her name on a Post-it and stuck it in my wallet and forgotten why. Except that some part of me had known I might need it someday. Her name was Patricia Wells. I got her assistant, left a message, and she called me back within 2 hours. I told her everything, the account he'd found, what Deb had heard, the documents I'd taken from the house. She was calm and precise, and she did not make me feel like I was overreacting. "The account you opened is in your name only?" she asked. "Yes." "And the money in it came solely from your freelance income?" "Yes, I can document all of it." "Good. That's yours. He has no claim to it." She paused. "I want you to do a few things today. Don't go back to the house without someone with you, preferably law enforcement or at minimum a witness. Call your bank, not the joint account, your credit union, and make sure no one else has attempted to access it. And I want you to get a credit report today, all 3 bureaus. If he's been moving money, there may be accounts in your name you don't know about." That last part made my stomach drop. I spent the rest of that morning on the phone and in front of my laptop at my mother's kitchen table. The credit report came back with 2 things I hadn't known about. A credit card opened in my name 8 months ago with a $9,000 balance, and a personal loan from an online lender I'd never heard of, taken out 14 months ago for $16,000. I sat with that for a moment. Then I took a screenshot of everything and emailed it to Patricia Wells. She filed for divorce on my behalf that afternoon. I won't tell you the whole legal story because it took 7 months and some of it is still too close and raw to describe clearly, but I'll tell you the shape of it. Neil did not take it quietly. He froze what he could, disputed what he couldn't, and called me 17 times in the first 3 days, each time leaving a voicemail that started calm and ended somewhere ugly. I didn't respond to any of them. I forwarded them to my attorney. Deb testified. I hadn't asked her to, she offered. She sat in that conference room in Patricia's office and she told them about the phone call, about what Neil had said. She also told them about his first marriage. A woman named, well, I won't use her name, a woman he'd married at 28, briefly in another state. A marriage he had never once mentioned to me in 11 years. His lawyer friend turned out to be someone from his college days who'd passed the bar and then gone into real estate. Not exactly a specialist in marital asset law. The unauthorized credit card and the loan, both traceable to him. He'd used my information. Patricia's colleague, a fraud attorney, filed separately on those. The house was sold. We split what was left after the mortgage, which was less than either of us wanted because the market in our area had cooled. I didn't fight for more than was fair. I just wanted out. I got out. I live in a small apartment now, in a town about 40 minutes from where I grew up. It's got good light in the mornings, a little balcony I've put plants on, and a landlord who fixes things when I ask. Chester's old collar is on a hook by the door. I kept that and a few other things that were mine before any of this. My mother calls me every morning. Not to check on me exactly, just to talk. About her garden, about the shows she's watching, about my aunt's new obsession with pickleball. Normal things. She's very good at normal things when I need them. Deb and I have had coffee twice. We don't talk about her brother. We talk about other things. Her job, my freelance work, a true crime podcast we've both been listening to. It turns out she's a lot funnier than I ever knew. I think we were both different people when we were in each other's lives before. I've thought a lot about that moment on the shoulder of Route 9, pulled off with my hazard lights blinking, listening to a woman I barely knew tell me not to go home. I've thought about how close I came to not answering that phone call. I was so certain I knew my life. I built a version of things in my head that felt solid and real. And I defended it even when the walls started showing cracks because it's terrifying to admit that the structure you've been living inside might not hold, that the person you trusted most might have been slowly, quietly, making sure you'd have nowhere to stand. But here's the thing no one tells you when you're still in the middle of it. The leaving is not the hardest part. The hardest part is the months before, when you know something is wrong but you can't yet name it, and every day you spend talking yourself out of your own instincts. When I got that call on Route 9, some part of me wasn't surprised. Some part of me had been waiting for the thing I already knew to finally say itself out loud. $9,000 and a fireproof box and a post-it note with a lawyer's name on it. That's what I had. That's what I'd quietly, without even fully understanding why, been building. It was enough. Some nights I sit on the balcony and watch the sky get dark, and I think about how strange it is that the version of me who started saving $20 at a time at the grocery store checkout probably saved the rest of me too. She didn't know that's what she was doing. She just knew something was wrong, and she did the only thing she could think of. I'm glad she did. I'm glad I answered the phone. I've thought a lot about the version of me who was sitting in that car on Route 9. Hazard lights blinking in the dark, trying to make sense of a phone call I hadn't expected from a woman I barely knew. What I keep coming back to is this: I almost didn't answer. That's the part that stays with me. Not the documents I grabbed from the closet, not the 7 months of legal proceedings, not even the moment I found out about the credit card opened in my name. What stays with me is how close I came to letting that call go to voicemail because I was tired and I assumed it was spam. We make small decisions every day that we don't recognize as decisions. We answer or we don't. We write a lawyer's name on a Post-it and put it in our wallet and forget about it, or we throw the paper away. We save $20 at the grocery checkout quietly for 18 months without fully letting ourselves understand why. Those choices don't feel like choices in the moment. They feel like nothing. Background noise. But they accumulate into something, and eventually that something is the only thing standing between you and the worst version of what could have happened. Neil made choices too. He chose, slowly and over years, to treat our shared life as something he could control and dismantle at will. He chose to go through my email, to open accounts in my name, to consult a lawyer before he said a word to me. Every one of those choices cost him something, not immediately, not in ways he could see, but eventually, completely. What you build on deception has a shelf life. It doesn't announce when it's expiring. It just one day stops holding. Deb could have stayed out of it. He's her brother. The easier thing, by far, would have been to say nothing. I understand now that it took real courage to make that call. To drive 40 minutes south and sit in a gas station parking lot in the cold, because she didn't know how else to warn me. She told me later she almost turned around twice on the way down. I'm grateful she didn't, but I also think she made that choice because of who she'd chosen to be, quietly, long before that night. That's the thing about character. It doesn't show up new in a crisis. It arrives already formed, built out of every small decision you made when no one was watching and nothing was at stake. I'm not the same person I was before that October. I don't mean that in a way that requires dramatic music or a tidy resolution. I just mean I trust myself more now, not blindly, not in the way I trusted before, which was really just the avoidance of looking too closely at things that scared me. I trust myself in a quieter way. The way you trust a floor to hold you when you've already tested it. My mother said something to me that first night that I think about a lot. She said, "You're not scared alone anymore." 8 words. She didn't try to fix anything or explain anything or tell me it would all be okay. She just named the thing that had changed, and she was right. That's all any of us really need sometimes. Not rescue, not someone to solve it. Just someone to stand in the room with you while you figure out how to carry what you're carrying. I'm still figuring it out. Most days I'm okay with that.